Good morning and welcome to the Salon Owners Social Media Marketing Group. How is everyone this morning? I hope you're well. It's a bit of a massive day for us today, isn't it? We get to find out at 3:30-ish. I like the way he puts ish, like he can't be on time, whether we can open our shops on the 3rd of December. So fingers crossed. If you're out there, if you're watching this on any of the Facebook groups or pages, or if you're over on YouTube watching this live, say hello, drop me a comment, let me know how you're feeling about today, because I think it's got a lot of people really excited about the fact that we may be able to open, and a lot of people worried in case we can't. So I thought I'd bring on a special guest this morning. He's one of my mentors. He gives me the boot up the backside when I need it and gives me the power to move my business forward. And I thought he would be a great person to come on this morning and chat through how we can make the most out of whatever decision happens. So good morning, Andrew.
Hey, good morning. This is exciting, isn't it?
I love it.
Yeah, I do. Just chatting like this. You tell me it's a big day. You say it's a big day and you're going to find it about 3:30ish. Just for anyone who's just confused, what's happening at 3:30?
Yeah, so at 3:30, the government is going to make an announcement as to whether or what's happening coming out of lockdown. So are we allowed to open on the 3rd? Are we going to be kept back down? Me personally, where I'm at, we're one of the 3rd highest regions in the country. So
for COVID cases.
Yeah. So I'm on the edge of my seat. I don't know how everyone else is feeling, but it's a massive thing, because if we can't open our business on the 3rd of December, our industry, December carries January for a lot of salons. We fit so many people in December and give them their lovely hair for their Christmas celebrations. And we don't even know if Christmas celebrations are going to be happening this year. It's like so much uncertainty. So that's what's happening in our world.
I do with a lot of clients, I do a lot of scenario planning, right? And it doesn't matter, you don't have to be a big business or a little business. It's scenario planning is quite important, where you say, I'll give you an example right away from this industry, totally right away from this, right? Most people, if you're watching this, you live in a house that's got a boiler, correct?
Correct.
Right? Okay. Most people in the UK have water that has limescale into it, correct?
Yep.
That will impact your boiler at some point. It's not a case of if it will happen, it's just a case of when it's going to happen. You either get the boiler serviced or you have to have the boiler replaced, right?
Yep.
So it's predictable, right? Most people have teeth. It's predictable that you will get, and most people abuse their mouth at this time of the year with mince pies and stuff, right? It's predictable that you're going to get a toothache at some point and you're going to go to the dentist. Now, in my case, I was in Boston in the US of A, and I was in a restaurant. And I ordered little lamb chops, and I bit into a chop, and there was a bone in the chop that split my tooth in half. And I have never felt pain like that in my life. It was like someone said, I'm just going to take it's like someone's going to put needles under my fingernails, or they just said, let's put a pin up into your face. And not only did I see stars, but I just about passed out. The pain was that intense, right?
Wow.
And I pulled this bit out of my mouth and half my tooth fell away, right? Oh. So it tells me the tooth was probably on the way out. the chop bone was probably just the last straw, right? Okay, but it is predictable. Okay. When I go on a holiday, you take insurance. You predict that something may not go right. Yeah. So you take this insurance out, right? I wrote a book called Manage and Multiply Your Money. It's on Amazon. Great book for Christmas, right? But a lot of the times I'm talking about what is predictable in your world. Let's take household stuff. There's a likelihood that your boiler will go, and you're going to be up for around about at least $2,000, at least, right? So in my case, knowing that, I took a small percentage of money over a period of time and I put it into an account which is just what I call my emergency fund. And it covers things like new tires for a car, predictable, dental work. It covers a boiler, and that money just sits there and it builds up, right? In my business, I figured out, and you and I were talking about this the other day, I figured out what did my business earn in revenues last year and the year before that and the year before that, right? And what was that on average a month? So I broke that down into the average on months, right? So for example, if you say, okay, and I think we were talking about a salon that does about 120 grand a year, or was that the figure we threw out?
We had a few figures, but yeah, let's just go with that.
Well, that was one of them, right? Doing 120,000 a year, right? It could, no, it was about 170, I think was the number that you talked about. We were playing with that number, right? Okay, so if you know that you're going, well, actually, we'll do 150 because that's a lot easier. You've asked a question, we're going into it already. and look, to talk about this scenario planning, we're linking it back to the 3 o'clock conversation. To do that, you need a calculator. You need to fall in love with your numbers, right? So if we said, right, let's go 150, right? So I've typed in 150,000, right? Divided by 12 months. So in a sense, the salon would be doing 12.5 grand per calendar month. See how I got that figure? When I work with clients, I'm a little bit more conservative, right? I actually divide it by 10 months because if you take out holidays and weekends and blah, 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 it's more like 10 months, right? And 10 months equates to 200 working days.
Okay.
Right? So if I divide that, basically I've got to be doing $750 a day. $50, you can tell where I come from, can't you? I live in the UK and I still talk dollars. But you've got to be doing 750 pounds a day on average as the cruising speed for the business. Now, you're either doing that, and if you're turning over 150,000, that's the cruising speed for the business.
Yeah.
So you're going to know your basic numbers here. But you and I, we talked about knowing your numbers of the business, and we talked about AMR stats, actual, mean, and rolling mean, right? And am I on track? It's a long answer, but it's a good one. It sort of helps you prepare. That's what I'm talking about. The takeaway point is predictable and preparation, right? Particularly around money. This is the thing I've learned. There's no such thing as all of a sudden in business, right? COVID's a bit of a red herring because right now there's a lot of people going, we're blaming circumstances. It's that bad COVID thing and it's that bad Boris because he won't lift the blah, blah, blah. No, I know people who have the same problems whether COVID's there or not there, right? So if I look at January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, right? So there's my year, right? And here's the income, right? So there's the income over there, right? So it will look like in January we did this amount, then this amount, then this amount, this amount, this amount, this amount, this amount, this amount, this amount. Now you're saying November and December have to be high months because you're saying January was a low month. I think that's what you said. Okay, so I'm just going to put that number down here, right?
We actually find in our interview that November's quite a quiet month as well.
Yeah.
Then we go pretty high for December and back down.
However, Jen, that may not be the case for high-performing salons.
No.
See, November may not be the quiet time because they know their numbers. See? So if you're looking at your monthly revenues, you might have, a really high month here, but you've got incredibly low months here. I'm making it up. I'm not assuming that June and July and August would be low months because it's summer, right? You'd be really pumping at that, right? Yeah. So this is probably needs to be that way instead, right? But here's the point: you can't mentally prepare if you don't know the cruising speed of the business. So firstly, this is going to come out, whatever your business is, folks, it's going to come out looking like a cardiac arrest, right? It's going to look like one of those cardiographs. Do you know, Jen, I looked at, and you can Google this, I looked at a volcanic eruption on Sicily. I think it was 1908 when they started measuring the Richter scale, right? And the eruption, it was an earthquake or I think it was a combination of an earthquake and a volcanic eruption in 1908 in Sicily. And it's famous because it's the first time we had a Richter scale graph.
Right.
Right. And what's amazing about it is it shows what devastation looks like. Right? It shows you what devastation looks like. And it's a fascinating, it's a frightening thing because a lot of people died. Right? You look at this little picture and it looks like that.
Yeah.
Right? And that, if you Google it, I was actually thinking of making that my logo and putting my letters in there and turning that into a logo, right? Because that's business, right? That's how business, you get these seismic shifts in your business, right? And this is your version of that.
Yeah.
Right. So first thing is, if you've been trading, and I'm assuming the people on this call have been trading for some time. I don't think we've got any newbies on here, have we?
There are a few, yeah.
Okay. So newbie, did they just start last week, or have they been trading at least 3 months?
Well, at least 3 months.
Great. Can people leave comments on this, or can they? Yeah. Or they can. Great. So if you've got comments, and it's making sense to you, oh, there they are. Look, there's Liam, there's Fiona, and well, there's 3 of us at least. Okay, but here's the thing: and if you're watching this later, make notes, right? Because this is really important. Firstly, what you want to know is, when I'm working with a client, I say, tell me what the trading figures of your business are for how long have you been trading. Break it down month by month so that I can see what the seismic thing looks like, right? I want to see what that looks like. Then once I've got that in place, you then can work out the average earning. Yeah. So you can then say, and whenever you divide by 12, right, you'll get the average. So it'll take the highs and lows and it'll create what looks like a flat line. Now, there's a couple of things that'll happen here. Are you finding this fascinating?
Yeah.
Right. So there's a couple of things that can happen with averages. Number one is that you'll find eventually that it plateaus, that you hit what's called a stable line. Averages, by definition, will create a flat line, right?
Yeah.
Now, I was going to share my screen, but I won't do it. But I've been working with a client where we've looked at his trading figures for the last 12 years, right? Where we went through and I love that. Look at that seismic shift. You're gonna take the eruption in your business, right? So we looked at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, right? So this was 2012, 2013, 14, 15, 16, blah, blah, blah. And it looked like, and when you're doing stock market trading, it's the same sort of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But when we took the average over 12 years, the business had flatlined.
Yeah. I actually saw this graph with you the other day, and it was really interesting because I've looked at the peaks and the troughs inside of my business, but I only ever look at them on a kind of a 12-month span. And then, yes, of course, I look back to see if there's similarities, but I've never actually done this where it's like, okay, what's it done over the whole of my business? 17 years.
You've got it, right. So in this case, and you know, like you might have some anomalies in your figures, like the global financial crisis, for example. So this guy's trading through the global financial crisis. So back here in, let's say 2011 was, can you imagine that the global financial crisis kicked off in 2007 and we actually didn't start pulling out of that till 2014? That is 7 years. And we say, gee, we hope COVID doesn't last long. And yet the UK went through a 7-year period of underperformance where we were dealing with very similar financial trading situations. Some people had to shut their doors, right? So 2012, 2013, 2014, etc., etc. So even allowing for the global financial crisis, right, he was still just, the business still continued to flatline, right? So this is useful to find out what are the trading peaks and troughs, as you said, but what does it look like if you average that out and you start to see what's the business, what's the cruising speed of that. Now, I'm working with another company, and I'll just pick another color here. What they did was, when I look at their overall figure, right, and I've got to just do the things like that. This is what we found over the years, right? Over a series of about 5 years. What we noticed, I'll just see if I can. I'll see if I can do it with the red pen here. Okay, so Jen, what's the difference between those two graphs?
The top one's growing, isn't it?
The top one's growing in it. Exactly. You've got it, right? This is the value of putting your numbers out and seeing them, because you can see, is the business just flatlining or is it growing?
And if you don't have the answer to that, you don't know the information over the span of your business, whether it's flatlining, growing, or declining, you can't.
Or declining.
Changes.
Or declining. And there it is, right? Or declining. Now, the beauty of doing this is you can find out this a lot sooner. Now, your accountant will just tell you, this is what you did last year, this is what you did the year before, but you won't get a sense of what the business looks and feels like, and this is a tool. And you know what? I think that you've got to know how to use Excel, and I think if I give you a document, Jen, you can put this in the group, and then they can figure out how to do this themselves, right?
Perfect.
So I'll give you a recipe for how to do this. It's a document you can have, right, at no cost, just because Jen and I love you guys, right? We love you. We love you guys. We just love you. That's how they say it in Australia. God, I love you, Jen. We all love you. You're a bonza Sheila, Jen. Right? So you can work out whether it's flatlining. Then there's the third point. This relates to the comment right at the start. We're going to bring this. We are going to tie this up. We're going to button up this thing in a moment. But I'm just showing you how this works, right? Now think about this, right? Fiona says, love you too. Love you too. Gee, Fiona.
No.
Yeah, she wants special favors. I just know. She just knows. Right.
She wants to link to your book.
Yeah, right. Now, so once you've got the actual, so the thing that looks like the cardiac arrest is what we call the A statistics, which is actuals. A stands for actual. This is what's actually been happening. The average is what we call, it's called M, and M stands for the mean. So when I did my psych degree, for example, we've got to work out the mean and standard deviations and stuff like that. And, you know, like right now we're doing COVID drug testing, and they're doing standard deviations, and they're saying this will work 95% of the time, right? Do you know, with drug testing, just off on a side there, you have to submit the null hypothesis. You've got to say the drug won't work, right? You have to start from the premise the drug won't work, and then you have to disprove that theory. In other words, by proving that it won't work, by disproving that it won't work, you prove that it does work. And it's the same in business. And you've got to think this through. When you listen back to this, just think about what I just said, because it's that is a gem. If you if you unpack that in your business, it's like you're turning on the money tap, right?
Yeah.
Right? Because right now you're working on the hypothesis, we're going to go to the wall. Well, you got to disprove that theory, right? So I'm giving you some firepower to do that. So the first thing is the actual. This is the actual, is the cardiac arrest, the seismic shift is what actually happened, right?
Yeah.
And why that earthquake was so significant, because it was right off the Richter scale, right? It just flattened almost half of Sicily, right? That's how big it was. It was a big thing. The other big one that happened there was Pompeii, right? When that erupted, Mount Etna, and da-da-da. So the second thing is you want to then get the average, and there's a formula. It's in that kit that I give you, but it shows you basically the average is, if I have, let's say I have two things and I've got 10 and I've got 10, so you go 10 plus 10 equals 20, divided by two elements is, so the average is 10, right? Mm-hmm. If I have three things, 10 plus 10 plus 10, it's 10 plus 10 plus 10 is 30, divided by three things. Now I've got three, I've got to divide by three, the average is still 10.
Yeah.
If I have 20 items. If I had 12 months and you take all the variables, all the ups and downs, and divide it by 12, you'll get the average.
Yeah.
And that's what this creates. That creates the average, right? Here comes the magic. Here's the magic bit, right? Firstly, you can see when you get year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, you can look at those all together and you can see, oh, shoot, there's peaks and troughs. So now that you know that January is going to be flat, you know it's going to be flat every year because you've probably got 3 years of data which shows that. Oh, shoot, it's been flat every year. It's no surprise. Now you can predict it, right? And if you have a bad year with COVID, so what? It just shows you what bad looks like now.
Yeah.
Right? So now you know what bad looks like. At least you know. That's the great thing I love about business, right? And I've been through 5 recessions, right? 5 recessions.
Wow.
1980s, 1987 in this country. Google 1987. See what happened on, I think it was August the 29th or October the 29th, 1987. You had the most massive market correction in this country since the Great Depression, right? They called it Black Friday, actually. Not Black Friday start spending money. Black Friday start everything went to the wall. Everything went to the wall, right? And you had 2 things. Number one, you had no communication and you had no transport. So I had a mate who was a stockbroker on that particular day. He couldn't get into London to use the phone to cancel trades. And all the power, the Postmaster General went down, which is called the PMG at that point. The telephone communication system went down. They couldn't ring anybody. He lost £2 million on one day. That was a lot of money back in 1987, right? That's like 100 million now, maybe, right? Okay, here's the third one, and this is really, really cool. Once you know that, right, then you can start to chunk up your data. So you might say, I'm going to take the average of just January, February, and March.
Okay.
So if I did 10 grand in January, 10 grand in February, and 10 grand in March, and divide that by 3, then the average is 10 grand a month. And we already gave you a figure of 12,500, right? In our working example earlier on. So much has happened since we started talking, right? Then the second one that you do, right, you'll then take the mean of February, March, and April. And it's called the rolling mean because now we're rolling through the data, right?
Okay.
And then you'll take the rolling mean of March, April, May. And then you'll take the rolling mean of April, May, June.
And why do we do that?
Because our financial year is measured in quarters. So I don't just want to know the HMRC quarter. I want to know, so think of it like this. The actual tells you what's actually been happening. The mean tells you what's been happening on average. And the rolling mean tells you what's been happening lately.
Yeah.
And that becomes really important because when you plot those numbers, you end up with a line that looks like this. It tracks, it takes into consideration the average and the actual, and it tells you what's happening. So it tells you whether you're overperforming. So if the rolling mean goes above the average, right, it tells you that you're overperforming, and if it goes below the line, it tells you that you're underperforming. So if you're sitting here, right, this point here, it's telling you to hustle.
Yeah.
Right? It's telling you that you can probably upturn. So I'm predicting you're going to go into a dip, right? But what follows a dip?
An up.
A trough, and it peaks and trough. A peak happens. And what happens is when you have a peak, you go, whew, so you take your foot off the pedal. And we can predict you'll go into a trough.
Yeah.
So this is telling you when you're looking at your data, and it's called it rolls, and that's why they call it the rolling mean, you can actually see it starting to roll over.
Yeah.
And you get that heads up a lot sooner when you have figures like this, when you have a graph like that. So if I'm looking at this, for example, you can then see trends like, oh yeah, we're trending up.
Yeah.
Or you can look at it and go, oh shoot, The business is trending down. It's no surprise now.
Yeah.
Let's read some of the comments here. See what comments we got. Yeah, okay. So this is so we've got a few people on the call, but also too, this is for people watching this later, right? So I'll send you a document, Jen, where people can actually get what you need, folks, to do this. You need to get about 3 years, or at least 3 years worth of trading. And you want to ask your accountant or your bookkeeper, can you give me the revenues of my business month by month by month, starting with, firstly, figure out what your year end is, right? So my year end is January 31st. So I take my figures from, I'm actually in my last business quarter, because it ends on January the 31st. But I think the HMRC, we're in Q2, I think. In fact, if you've watched, Jen, would your crew have seen you talk about Instagram?
Yeah.
Right. So remember at the start when Jen did this diagram, when you did this diagram where you talked about exactly the same thing, 2019 to 2009 to 2019, right? And you did this thing where you said we grew by 15%, and then you did this lovely amateur dramatics where you said, and you know what happened in Q1? Boom, it grew another 15%. Do you remember that statistic that you gave them? See, that's exactly. See, yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot. That kept me awake.
Oh.
That kept me awake because, you know, you're talking to someone who has figured out just with one tool alone how to get customers, how to get local customers, and the right ones at that, right? That's the secret of this. But it's not, you know, Jen, you didn't just wake up one morning and go, I know how to use Instagram.
No.
No, I just thought you had divine revelation. You woke up, oh, I know how to use Instagram.
No. A lot of messing around.
A lot of messing around. Business is just the same. It's a lot of messing around. But what did you pay attention to? What were the things you started to pay attention to with Instagram? So, and we're going to come back to a point here. What did you start messing around with?
So the things I was paying attention to were the things that were generating eyeballs, conversions, leads, and customers. And if it wasn't that, it wasn't working.
Yeah. So you were measuring something.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, a good question for business is, how do you measure success in your business? Well, most people just measure it on revenues.
Yeah.
Right. That's how you measure success. Look at this. I was doing some drawing last night. Yeah, aren't I clever? So, so you're measuring something. Measure revenues, but 1 month or 1 year is not. Did we have a good month last week? Compared to what?
Yeah.
See, so money is not hard. It's compared to what, right? So with my client here, we're having a good year compared to what? Well, compared to the last 12 years, it hasn't been a good 12 years because you haven't grown, you haven't done anything, you've just gone flatline. That's okay, by the way. If you've found a level where all your bills get paid, it gives you a bit of lifestyle, and you don't have to work too hard for it. It's just organically just chugs along. You know, just call it what it is. It's a train line, right? And the train's moving along on the train line, right? You've got a choo-choo business that just travels along the track, right?
With a nice
choo-choo. I'm on a train. It's called a business train. I'm chugging.
Oh my God, I love that.
Right? I'm on a train. I'm on a choo-choo train. Right? If you've got a choo-choo business, that's the name of my book. I got a choo-choo business.
Is it?
I'm gonna write one. I'm gonna write a book called Choo-Choo Business, right? Choo-Choo Business, right? Oh, it's going to be a LinkedIn post tomorrow. Choo-choo business, right? See, if I'm on a train traveling along that track, which is what they think, it's not going anywhere. But you know the story of the Little Red Engine, don't you? The Little Red Engine was pulling a load, going along, and then there was the Little Red Engine. You know the story of the Little Red Engine?
No.
Oh, it's a powerful story. Most people will know the Little Red Engine, right? Where the Little Red Engine was rolling along, and it came to a hill. And he was pulling these trucks behind him, and he's going, I think I can, 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 I think, I can, I can, I can, I can. That's the Little Red Engine.
Wow.
And
That's
the story is,
a powerful story.
yeah, it's a great story for kids because it teaches them resilience.
Yeah.
Right? The other story, if I could give you the best business book I have ever read, I'll tell you the name of the story. It's called The Little Red Hen. It's the little golden book called The Little Red Hen. It's the story that changed my life. It's a story I read to my kids. You know the story of the Little Red Hen? The Little Red Hen says, who will help me plant the wheat? Not I, said the duck. I'm too busy. Not I, said the fox. Not I, said the cat. Not I, said the dog. Who will help me harvest the wheat? Not I, said the dog. Not I, said the cat. I'm too busy, said the duck. Who will help me ground the flour? Not I, said the dog. Not I, said the cat. Not I, said this. Not I, said that. Who will help me bake the cake? Not I, said the bread. Not I. And then the smell started to come out. Who will help me eat the bread? I will, said the dog. I will, said the cat. Piss off. Piss off. Where were you when I needed help? Right?
Wow. I love that.
See, the Little Red Hen and the little red train are great stories to read to your team. See, if you want a result, you've got to put the effort in. If you've got a result, you've got to be that resilience. Okay, the COVID train is we're going to hit a thing. It's a hard climb, but just keep climbing. I think I can. I think I can. And I'm trying to give you data that you can look at it and go, you know what? That's what happened over 12 months, but here's what happened over 12 years. This is what's happening here. Seismic shift, December the 3rd is going to be a seismic shift. We're waiting. You know, they knew in Sicily that something was up because the volcano was rumbling. Right? Rumbling. Like we got the rumbles right now.
Yeah.
Now, it could either be nothing or it could be seismic, but the point was it was devastating and a lot of people didn't survive it, but that's just nature. But a lot of them lost everything, but they got up and they rebuilt.
Yeah.
Right? Now, scenario number one is it might be an earthquake. You know, like I've worked with critical care units. I've worked with hospitals. I've worked with paramedics. I've worked with the military. We scenario plan. What's the worst thing that can happen? That's your first thing, guys. Think that through. What's the worst thing? Now, you base the worst on what you know statistically has happened or historically has happened.
Yeah.
You got it? You base it on that. And so looking at that, right, compared to what, you might say, well, shoot, we're going to be down. Are we going to be down by 10%? Are we going to be down by 20%? Are we going to be down by 30%? Are we going to be down by 40%? Are we going to be down by 80%? Are we going to be down by 100%? And how long will that last? You get it? So we know from the global financial crisis, for some people that lasted 7 years. It just was there. COVID is not going away, folks. We've got a vaccine, right? I was on the governor of Louisiana, who they've got the most impeccable medical team. The whole world's looking at Fauci, but Fauci talks about Louisiana because Louisiana is a test case for, we ain't wearing no mask. Jan, you're violating our freedom of right to wear a mask. You know, it's I'm going into the city and I'm shooting guns with my mask off, right? It's redneck. I'm sorry to anyone from Louisiana, but they picked that state because they ain't doing nothing. I've got the right to do it. You know, you hear them talk about the right. I got the right. Well, you've also got the consequence of getting sick because they've got the highest level of people with COVID as well, right? So these are the people who say COVID's made up, it's a conspiracy, it's a government plot. Err on the side of caution. let's just pretend it ain't, because it's got the highest death toll. It's got the highest this toll, right? So if you're in a place that's got the highest incident, it just tells me you've got a lot of rebels there who do not want to play it safe. So where do we see the most stringent conditions is in your salon. How have you adjusted to do business in these conditions? The good news is a vaccine's coming, and from the trials, because they've worked on the null hypothesis, there's a high likelihood there's light at the end of the tunnel now with this whole COVID thing, right? You'll be able to take a flu shot. We're starting to roll out to the vulnerable, and they should roll out to the vulnerable, right? Right? They should roll that to the homeless. I'm a big fan of, here's my opportunity right here, folks, you know. Christmas at crisis. We're thinking about Black Friday and what we can spend. People are still talking about Black Friday and where can I do deals, you know. COVID, Christmas at crisis, because I volunteered for crisis is for the homeless people. I volunteered for 8 years with that, right? Broke my heart every year, but I love doing it, right? And when you see this letter, don't pitch it, open it and send some money. Trust me, there are people worse off than you.
Yeah.
They're sleeping on the streets. If you were out on the streets last night, and I was walking the streets at 10 o'clock last night because I had to go and get something, I would just want to get a breath of fresh air because I've been on this damn thing all day. It was freezing, and there are people sleeping out in that. And the Salvation Army, because my mum was in the Salvation Army. I'm not religious, so I say God bless to everyone, and that's the legacy of my mum and my nan, right? But they were in the Salvation Army. These guys do amazingly good work.
Yeah.
Right? Amazing. It does what it says on the frickin' badge here, right? So don't tell me it's tough. Context, right? Compared to what?
Yeah.
You got it easy. If you were sleeping in a warm bed last night, you were a lot better off than a lot of people at the moment, right? So the great thing about numbers is you can see that it's going to be tough. What's going through your mind at the moment, Jen?
Just how when we open a salon, so typically, you know, we're a stylist, we've learned how to cut great hair, we're at the point of buying a salon, you're probably the busiest stylist in the salon, you're cutting the most hair, you're taking the most money, and at some point you're not treated right, and so you go and open a salon. At that point, what you don't understand is business.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to just, well, we're taking the money's coming in and the bills are being paid. So we just kind of do this because it's all okay. It's all chugging along. The choo-choo train is going, but
choo,
without understanding actually the big picture of what's happening, we could be declining without even knowing. And then add into that the fact that costs are going up.
Yes,
so
yes.
if you're flatlining, you probably are declining because
in fact, if it feels too easy, you're probably declining. It doesn't feel hard; it feels too easy, right?
Yeah.
Or you haven't reset what the goals are, right?
Yeah.
Right. So you can use numbers in a way to steer you. Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted. Yeah.
No, that was what was clogging along in my head. Plus a few songs, a nice story about
See, the thing is, know your numbers. Get some historical data behind your business. If you're only just started, start collecting it. Look at what was our turnover. And, you know, on this group here, we might even come back and talk about dashboards and scorecards, because then you can actually get numbers. See, what happened in the business is just a result. What did we turn over last month? 12.5 grand, let's say, right? Let's say we did 10 grand, right? Last month. That's just a result. How do we get the 10 grand? Is activities that you put into the business. Right? It's the activities that you're putting into the business, right? So you build a business on activity, not on result. The results, however, tell you whether those activities are worth doing.
Yeah.
Right. Same with, and you start to look at what actually gets the result. So, you know, like, Jen, let me ask you this question. Chocolate cake. I hate Christmas because I love mince pies.
What?
I hate Christmas because I love mince pies. It's mince pie season, and you know when you go, mince pies, yeah. And somebody says, "Would you like one?" And I go, "I'll have 3," right? And I don't have a little sister that I'm taking them back to. You know, like I've snuck one to give them. You've seen that ad where the kid sneaks a cake, and right? See, mince pies. I don't know why I'm saying that. Chocolate cake. What do you need to make a chocolate cake?
Oh God, I don't bake. Flour, eggs,
Flour, eggs,
milk,
milk,
chocolate, something to make it
chocolate, sugar,
Yep, sugar,
caster sugar for the icing,
powder or something.
powder, baking powder. Yep, got it. Right. Okay. Right. So if I put all those ingredients into a mixing bowl, what's the next thing I got to do? I got to put it in the oven,
Yeah.
and I've got to actually put the right temperature. Each rolls, because I could 12 months ago I used to burn water, right? And so I thought I'm going to learn how to cook. Now my daughter-in-law, who's wonderful, she gave me a cooking class at Leith's cooking school, right? And then she gave me another one at Jamie Oliver's. I've got to tell you, if you get a chance to go and do a cooking class at Leith's cooking school, fantastic. Jamie Oliver's is just, the guy's a genius. It was sensational, and he's taken that online as well. It was just, I can't tell you how good both of those were, right? For next to bugger all, for next to nothing, right? But chocolate cake. So we put it in the oven. So I'm making sausage rolls and I'm trying out the recipes. Some of them work, some of them didn't. One of the things I learned is if you cut it with carrot and I put carrot and I put potato and I put that. So I'm learning to cook really well now, right? And if I put onion and carrot and I put a bit of, you can't tell anyone this. I put a bit of grated apple in there, into the sausage roll. You cannot tell anyone. I put a bit of grated fennel. It's the secret thing.
We're live.
Yeah, no, so I'm talking to you now. You can't tell anybody, okay? I'm talking to you. Yes, I'm talking to you, right? And you over there, right? So, but what I found was when I baked it, they were soggy. And then I made the rolls too big. So I had to either leave them in longer, but it burnt the outer pastry. So I went through all these iterations to try and get it right? And then I learned a trick. My sister said, oh, for goodness sake, Andrew, if you're going to put carrot and potato and that in there, she said, put it into a tea towel, put it over the sink and wring it out and get all the juice out first. Wring that out and then put it on a paper towel and pat it dry and then add it to the mix. And the next batch that came out were just, oh my God, sensational. They cooked all the way through. They weren't soggy. And I had some neighbours come out. Are you cooking sausage rolls? I said, yeah. Can we have one? I said, yeah. And they were delicious, right? Same with the chocolate cake. So you put all the stuff in, you work out the ideal temperature and you cook it, right? If you're doing Instagram, you do this, you get your profile right, see the recipe, ding, 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 and then you've got to bake it a couple of times and see what works and what doesn't work, right? And eventually you get the recipe right. Same with running a business. Eventually you get the recipe right. So, Jen, you've told me so many times, I can get people to come to my salon, but if the customer experience is terrible or it's not targeted, then it's not going to work anyway. So it's not just one thing. It's a combination of things that Jen's talking about, right? And you've got the recipe ticking along nicely. Then you get something like a red herring like COVID thrown into it. You have to adapt the recipe to still make it work, right?
Yeah.
And occasionally the fuse on the oven blows and you can't cook until somebody comes out and fixes the oven, right? Or you forgot to turn the switch on the wall which says oven or hob, and I'm there going, why isn't my oven working? Why isn't my hob? Because you didn't turn it on, idiot, at the wall.
Yeah.
Right? Simple things like that. Here's the question. When does it not become what would you have to take out where you go, it's no longer a chocolate cake? What's the ingredient you remove so it's not a chocolate cake anymore? Chocolate? Great. So I could take the chocolate. So it's still a cake, but it's not a chocolate cake. Okay. What do I have to take out so it's no longer a cake?
Flour.
The flour, exactly. So the flour, right, is the difference that makes the difference. The chocolate is the difference that makes the difference. What's going through your mind?
What is the flour and the chocolate inside of our business?
You've got it, yeah. What is the thing that makes it? Now, for yours, you're saying it's Instagram, but that's just like the chocolate and the cake was the customer experience.
Yeah.
The training of the girls, right? Get the idea?
Yeah.
So the question is, what's the this will help you, and I don't know how we're going for time, but and I've seemed to do all the talking, but because I'm so fascinating. Aren't I amazing? I'm just amazing, right? With a nice shirt. So the thing is, where was I going with this? Yeah, the thing is that you look at the numbers for a start off in the business, and not just looking at 1 year alone. If you're running your business mentally from that, right?
Yeah.
Then that's going to create panic.
Yeah.
Right. If you're running your business from that, right? Okay, at least I've got 12 months. If you've just started, start getting month by month by month. Start as just a basic metric like what was our revenues, right? But you can also look at how many inbound calls did we receive? How many walk-ins did we receive? Is that going up or down? What is the quality of those calls? What is the quality of those inbounds? So you might get a lot of people, but 80% of those people who came in, they just want 38-pound haircuts instead of 125-pound treatments.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got choices in here. So you start to think, what's the difference that makes the difference here? Right. So Jen's figured it out. Number one, Instagram and some other tools. But I'm just talking about Instagram. But an impeccable customer experience that focuses on a target customer, and all the girls get that.
Yeah.
And they trained accordingly so they make the noises that target wants to hear, and those people then go off and refer. So you measure referrals, even member gets member, client gets client services, right? So that sort of gives you an idea. So you can start to see, there's a peak, there's a trough. But when you start looking at a range of data for the last 3 years, you then start to see, here's the trends. We know that we're about to go into a quiet January. Now, if December's quiet, it makes January, it doesn't necessarily mean that January will be quiet. If you just sit there and do sweet FA, it's probably going to be quiet. We can predict that. If you sit there and say, I'll just, like Jen, it was cold last night and I've got a wood burner, right? And I sat in front of the wood burner and I said, give me some heat. I'm cold, and then I'll put some wood in.
It's not going to do anything, is it?
Give me the heat and then I'll put the wood in. Doesn't work that way. You've got to put the wood in and then you get the heat. So you're in the right place to learn these sort of things. It's a mental thing, right? Just prepare for it. Mentally prepare for it. Mentally prepare for it, right? If the government says, and I'm the chairman for a children's charity, that's why I'm a big fan of charities, right? Right? I'm the Salvation Army particularly. This is a really relevant one for right now. This one's super relevant right now for homelessness. This is people who are really doing it tough, and the Salvos are there, right? But I have a charity, which is Clear Sky Children's Charity, which I'd love you to donate to. And right now we deal with vulnerable children aged 4 to 12 who are witnessing or experiencing a trauma. And domestic violence in this country has gone through the roof, and kids for the first time ever are on the front line of that.
Yeah.
Because we're seeing more of those kids going into A&E, right? Because of domestic violence, right? So right now we can predict that. We know what we knew that happened, because when we went through lockdown number 1, we saw what happened. Then when we went out of lockdown, it went down, and lockdown 2 came in, it's going up again. In Louisiana, they're going into lockdown 3.
Okay.
So that's why I was listening to the governor of Louisiana, and their rhetoric and the narrative is prepare, right? Don't go on, this is going to get, I hope someone makes this better. No, prepare for this. Expect it. And they're talking the language of expectation. Expect this. So just expect, first case scenario, expect that, in the charity, they're saying to us, don't expect that kids are going to go back to school until January now. They're talking about schools are going to go for December or whatever. So the government is pushing our expectation. Now, that doesn't mean that'll happen everywhere else, but school is a pretty good metric for what's happening.
Yeah.
Right? Good indicator for what's happening. So I look at what's happening around schools, and I can pretty much get an idea of what else is going to happen. So if those schools aren't shutting down, we can pretty much say it's going to follow on, that other things are going to open back up again, right? But prepare for that. Yeah, fingers crossed. Now, this is where it becomes important, and this is why, and how much we got to wrap up in when?
Well, the next kind of 5.
Yeah, great. Okay, so in the book Multiply and Manage Your Money, which is on Amazon, fabulous book to read. Okay, there's a section here. There's 10 things, and I'll do this really quickly. There's 10 things you do with money. You earn it, you spend it, and the rule with money is simply don't spend more than you earn.
Yeah.
Or don't spend more money than you can't afford to pay back, basically, right? You earn it, you spend it, you save it, you invest it, and if you own a business, you're an investor, and you give it.
Charity.
Those are the 5 things around money. And I for 4 years, I read every money book I could. I attended loads and loads of money courses, and I read over 3,000 money websites and posts, and there were 10 big ideas around money. Those are the first 5. To play with money, you've got to track what happens. Track it, right? Set targets. So once you've got this data, or data, how do we say it in the UK?
Data.
Data. Once you've got this data,
Darling.
you can now set targets, right? Then you trim. So I have a target to save £1,200 for Christmas. So I'm going into Christmas with £1,200 already saved up. I'm not going to do it on my credit card. I've already got the money. I set that target 12 months ago, right? I have £2,500 set aside just in case the boiler goes. I set that as a target to build that up. I didn't always have £2,500, but I gradually added to that little pot, and I came up with £2,500. In my business, I have a cash buffer in the business of 30%.
Yeah.
So whatever the revenue is, 30% of that is held in cash. So over COVID, my business has ticked along because I can fund the operation of it. Now, most businesses I'm talking to don't have any cash reserves whatsoever. That's why they're panicking, right? And the reason for they're not doing that is because they don't know what their hairstylists are earning. They don't know what profit they're making on those hairstylists. They don't know, the ratio might be we pay our stylist this, but we only make that. That's not helping you get ahead, right? In my book, I set out what are the main things you spend your money on, right? So track, set targets, trim, set a budget, trim your spending, right? Train, if you're showing up here, you're doing the training, right? Take action and expect to take action. Those are the 10 things. That's what will change your life around. So in my book, The Money Thing, we know that your monthly expenses are going to be liabilities. Rent, mortgage, personal loans, recurring bills, rates, insurances, school fees, periodic bills, gas, electricity, water, rates, consumer debt, loans, credit cards, charge cards, fees, interest charges, living expenses, food, household spending, transport, discretionary spending, profitable investment. Now, most people, their lives are so consumed with the first 5 categories, they don't set aside anything for discretionary spend or emergencies. So right now, start thinking, whether we come out of COVID or not, let's say we come out of COVID tomorrow and they say, you know what, hey, we've got the vaccine, it works, we're all good, right? Prudent thinking says because of cycles, because of money cycles, right? History repeats.
Yeah.
Now, it might repeat itself just on a 12-month thing. We know that we're going to go into a downward thing on this January. That's history repeating itself. So become a student of history in your own business, right? This is a fabulous book. Jen's book's on the way, by the way, but this is a fabulous book. It'll be better than my book. But Manage and Multiply Your Money is just the basics of understanding. And this book called Starting is the assumptions that underpin your business. Stress test the assumptions that sit under your business. Now, one assumption most people have is business will just keep rocking out without me doing anything. It's called the organic strategy. But Jen is talking to you about growth strategies. It's about deliberate, conscious, choreographed, orchestrated strategies to grow the business. Now, finish on this point. I ask my clients worldwide, what is the goal of business? And you know the answer, don't you, Jen? Yeah. The goal of business is to make money. Period. If you're in doubt, ring up the HMRC and ask them, Hey, it's Andrew here. What's the goal of my business? And they'll say, make money.
So you can
Why?
pay more.
Why? So you can pay us tax so we can run the country. But the more money you make means you're going to have to employ people so we can tax them too. That's the goal of business.
Yeah.
The purpose of business was what you talked about earlier, Jen, is I want to be my own boss. I want to create an experience that people will love. I want to work with the right people. I want to give them the look and feel so they walk out of here looking amazing and feeling incredible. That's the purpose of your business. And people get those two things mixed up. In fact, they say the purpose of the business, I'll forget about the goal of business.
Yeah.
So when you come on this
expensive hobby,
it becomes a very expensive hobby, and if the money doesn't come in, it becomes a painfully expensive hobby.
Yeah.
Right. So you're in the right place. I want to finish up on this point, right? I want to finish up on this point, and then back to you. I'm just wondering, what have you taken from today? What have you taken from today? Because you might want to listen back to this a few times. I'll make sure I get that document to Jen so that you've got it, right? And understand, people, I charge people for that, right? So you're going to get that as a bonus for just hanging out with the wonderful Jen. What did you get from today?
Me, or are you asking the guy?
Yeah, you. I'm asking you. Yeah.
I love this. Do you know what I absolutely love? At the end of every session, you wrap it up with this with me. Like, what did you get today? And my head just goes, oh my God, like, so for me, it's about really getting to fall in love with the numbers, prehistoric numbers, to really micro detail look at, okay, what's happened in the business over 17 years. Are we going up? Are we going down? And then have a look at, okay, so we're cruising speed at this. How do I make it cruise faster? How do I make that train go harder? And it will just be a combination, and I'm not going to use the cake scenario here, it will just be a combination of the amount of coal I shovel in that train and the speed that I shovel it in. Okay.
What about if you replaced it with a high speed?
Well, yeah, change the whole dynamics of what's going on with the train, you know. I love that.
What about we just jettison that train, just get ourselves a high speed?
Yeah.
So we can get there faster.
Yeah. And take a shorter route.
And take a shorter route, or get to the route a lot faster. We find the shortest route between A to B, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That is such a good thing. Jen, I agree with you. You've got to fall in love with numbers. You cannot do business. The goal of business is to make money. You've got to have some metrics. What are you measuring? You've got to measure something, right? And look, if the numbers depress you, at least you know what the numbers are. Ignorance is not bliss.
No.
In business. There's no such thing as all of a sudden, because numbers will give you the heads up. In business, there is no such thing as all of a sudden. Trust me.
I have conversations with salon owners, and it shocks me every time this conversation happens. And I hear the words, oh, I had an unexpected VAT bill or an unexpected tax bill. And I'm like, how was that unexpected?
Yeah.
And planning for the things that you know are going to happen, and putting money aside. You know, at Obsessions, we have a separate bank account. The VAT money goes in there, never mixed up. You know, if you're not planning for those simple little things, how on earth can you plan for something as big as COVID?
And I know people who take VAT, collect VAT off people, and they spend the VAT. Right? And people say to me, like, in the charity sector, my behaviour, whether I'm working in the charity or not, my behaviour is regulated by the charity's commission. I have to be impeccable in everything I do, whether I'm working in the charity or outside the charity. So I can be really squeaky clean inside the charity, but if I come out here and start doing stuff that's shonky, the charity's commission will get to hear about it, and I've been disrepute to my charity, right? So I am governed, and I have to be compliant with the charity's commission, right?
Yeah.
People say, well, I don't have that governance. You do. It's called HMRC.
Yeah.
You are governed and you have compliance. If you're in doubt, just don't pay your tax and see what happens. Right? It's called breaking the law. You know, what's that song? I needed money because I had none. I bought the law and the law won.
Yeah.
I fought the law and the law won, right? HMRC is not an idiot. Trust me.
Not.
Right? the thing I love about what you're doing, Jen, is with stuff like this, right? You're giving people stuff. You got to think, how many people aren't on this course who don't know this stuff? And you're on the course, folks, learning this stuff. And it is tough and it's hard. And you're doing the Little Red Engine. I think I can. It's hard. It's hard. You're shoveling coal, as Jen said. But there's a point where it starts, yeah, it's working. It's working. It's working. It's, wow, now I'm getting used to it, right?
Yeah. And it's the same with
good cake. Yeah. Yeah. Instagram. Why can't I just wake up tomorrow and know Instagram, Jen?
Yeah, I know.
I did one post and nothing happened.
I know. Listen, thank you so much for all of your time. And for you guys out there that are watching this live, drop us a comment. You know, Andrew's beautifully let us have that little, what's it called?
AMR. Financial tracking, yeah.
So he's going to allow us to have this tracking tool, which is just amazing. If you've listened to this today and you've realised what you don't know inside of your business, Andrew's given you the tool to be able to now finally understand that and measure it inside of your business so that you can grow. And Andrew, thank you so much for that.
And Jen, if anyone gets stuck with this, what you need to do is you need to get your data for the last 3 years or whatever, how long you've been training. Send them to us in a spreadsheet and we'll generate it for you if you get really stuck. But I recommend you try and figure this out first. You need to know how to use Excel. Try and figure it out, because if once you do that skill for yourself, then there's no stopping you. But we'll give you the theory of how to do it anyway. Yeah.
We will indeed. Thank you for your lovely comment, Liam. That's really, really sweet of you. Guys, have the most amazing day. I've got a day full back-to-back of calls for people coming into the Successful Salon Club. So if you're one of those, I can't wait to chat to you today. I've got a few one-to-ones, and with the 2 charities and actually with Clear Sky Children's Charities. You will have seen the book that I wrote. Andrew was my publisher, and he's now become my mentor, and all of the proceeds that we made from that book went to the Children's Sky Charities and will continue to also. So Andrew, thank you for showing up and being here with us today. I really appreciate your time.
Nice.
And I love our mentor course. Like,
hey guys, if I don't get to talk to you, Merry Christmas. I know it's early, I'm getting early, but Merry Christmas, God bless. You're in great hands with Jen. Jen's the real deal. She knows what she's doing.
Thank you very much. Mwah. Take care, lots of love. We'll see you all 10 a.m. tomorrow, where we're going through some new tactics inside Instagram. I can't wait to see you then. Bye-bye.
God bless, bye.